it's Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back, and if you are new, welcome. I am playing with my violin. I'm not going to finish it in this recording, but I am going to work on the layout of the pieces that I'm going to add to this. This was a vintage, this is an old vintage violin. I've already got stuff all over it, but that's okay. That'll go away when I'm done. Made in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And it's been hanging around our house in pretty bad condition for many, many years. And so I finally decided to pull it out and start playing with it. And so I've already got a coat of black gesso over the whole thing. Plus, I've done a little bit of pre-work. I've got some modeling paste through stencils here with the raindrops, some crackle paste. Here's some. This is a chipboard piece that's down here on the bottom, and some more raindrops. And the idea is, and then this is a doorknob plate, an old doorknob plate that I got at an estate sale. And I'm going to do something to the center of that. I just don't know what yet. Anyway, the idea is that I want to create a collage, a mixed media collage on this piece. Then it can be a wall hanging. But the idea is that it's sort of a garden. And so I want to put some florals on it, some other pieces, and just really have fun with it. And then, of course, it'll be color. Probably do blue, maybe green, I'm not sure yet. I'll play around with that a little bit, and lots of layers to go. So this is really just the beginning. The next thing that I want to do is play around with, I've got some pieces pulled out here. If you can see that, this is my little tray of stuff. Just some miscellaneous things I've pulled out to potentially use. It doesn't mean I'm going to use all of these. I've got metals, I've got hinges, I've got florals, I've got some more chipboard, and so I'm just going to play with how these pieces potentially lay on here. Once I've got an idea of what I want to do, then I will start gluing things down. And then I'll be able to color it. And then it'll be done. So just a few of my favorite things, some rust pieces that would probably go on at the end. There's a key, here's a dragonfly and a butterfly, lots of florals, some numbers, lots of filigree pieces, and I already know what I'm gonna do with these long skinny pieces that'll go on at the end. So basically right now what I'm gonna do is just, I think I'm gonna play with most of these flowery pieces here and see if I can get something going that I like. And I'm in no hurry to get this done. This is just something for me. And so this may take a while. I might not ever get it done. No, I will. I'm gonna start with the bigger piece here, and I originally saw this as maybe slipping in here. So I'm not concerned about the metal pieces not matching, not at this stage, because they will all eventually get a coat of gesso on them, and then I'll do the coloring and whatnot after the gesso is on. This might be kind of fun if I cut this one in half. Or maybe it's the littler one. Let me cut this in half and see what that looks like. I have plenty of these, so I'm not worried about cutting. Your Tim Holtz scissors cut metal, especially this thinner. This is a finer sort of filigree metal, inexpensive. Yeah, there we go. Whoops, don't shove that under there too far. There we go. So far, so good. Look, I got two pieces on there. Let's see, I don't even know what I want to do. I do have, like I said, I do have an idea for right through here. So I don't want to go too far right through there. I do want to, no, well, it doesn't have to be centered. Nope, 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 nope. Let's see, I kind of need, oh, there is no rhyme or reason to how I do this. I just start grabbing pieces and laying them down. And if I like it, great. If I don't, I move on. I don't think too much about it, or I try not to overthink it. I try not to overdo it. I try to keep it fairly simple. And that's a nice piece. Here's another nice piece. Get some of these shapes in here that I can lay down as bases. Here's another one that might. So again, the color does not matter on these at all. Ooh, I like that. I like it so far. I might get a little timepiece kind of clock in there. Layering and layering and layering. As a matter of fact, you want, that's nice. You want layers all over the place. Humma, 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 humma. Does this piece go here somewhere? Ooh, maybe it does. I'm okay with coming off the edge. That's quite all right. So maybe that's, or maybe this is coming down here. That's kind of cool. Kind of going. What I'm going to do with these, and the reason I'm going to explain why I have to do it after the fact, these are going to go right, and they fit perfectly. They're going to go right up here, and they will fit. But what I want to do is I want to have some vintage paper coming out from behind it, and I can't put the paper on until after I've colored everything. So that'll be one of the last things I do. I'll try to, as I work through this, I'll try to keep this area, this space right here sort of open so that I'm able to do it. And then when it's all completely done, I'll decoupage some vintage book page paper right up here, kind of coming out of this, and then these will go on top. And I'll color these separately to match whatever I end up doing on the piece. I'll put a layer of black gesso on them first, just like I did here. They need to be flattened out just a little bit, but I played with it earlier and they fit very nicely. So I just need to remember that that's what I want to do there and keep that space open. So, yeah. All right, what else? I feel like I need something kind of up in here. Not that though. Not that one. Not that one. What? Maybe. And if I don't find what I'm looking for in the pieces that I've pulled aside, I will certainly go back and look for more. Maybe that just sits, it's stuck. It's kind of tricky working on this because, what if I curve that a little bit? Again, these filigree pieces are just so bendable. They're nice to work with just because they're, maybe, oh wait a minute, what if that slips down and tucks in under there? No, not feeling it. Not feeling it. All right, let's focus my attention. I want to focus my attention on the cluster. And these flowers that have an area where you can put, you know, something in them, I will probably put a melange stone. Let me see if I can find them and show them to you. These are melange art pebbles from Finnabair, from Prima Marketing, and they come in a bunch of different sizes. And what I would do, very likely, is paint the bottom so that you have that shine or that color coming through, and then drop it on. Again, that's one of the very last things I would do, and drop perhaps one on here. I may even, depending on what I've got going from a color perspective, when I'm done, is I may also use a flat back pearl or some other flat back sort of bead or gemstone. I don't know what I've got off the top of my head, but whoops, just dropped it. So that's an option, but again, those are things that happen at the end. That's the finishing touches. So, and I can build pieces up and straighten them out with extra matte medium underneath the piece. So that's not a huge concern. Here's another one where I think it's a little big. So I'm gonna go ahead and snap this one off. Take a chunk out. Maybe it's the little one that goes there. Nope, don't like it. Maybe there's only one. And I'm not worried, you know, I may cut these and then not use them. That's okay. That's okay. They'll be there for me for later to use it another time. So that doesn't bother me at all. I love this piece. This one keeps moving, but he would be down there. I wonder if maybe there's something underneath that. And then that goes there. So normally the way I do this is I'll play with it, I'll get it to where I think I like it, and then I walk away. Let's see, we know what we're doing with those. I have an idea for that. I wonder if this should have a big one up here somewhere. Okay, I've got an idea, I think, of what I want to do. And I'm going to start with this as a base, and the next step is to glue things down. And as I'm gluing things down, I want to think about, what do I not want to glue down right now? What do I want to be a finishing touch piece that I sort of work on afterwards? So I already mentioned these, and so I already know that. I think this little number 14 would be a nice one to be a final touch after the fact, so that it wouldn't get the extra color on it or gesso right now. All of this would be gessoed. And I think this butterfly is another piece that I would wait and play with after later. And then I've also got this hinge, and on the hinge, if I can show you without messing things up here, what I want to do, I think, is put the hinge, let me get it going the right direction here, up here. Let's see, how did I do that? I was playing with it earlier. I think I want to put the hinge right there, sort of like it's holding the piece together, or something right around there. And again, I would probably hinge that on after I've done my coloring, but before I do wax paste. Wax is going to be the last step before spray sealant. And I may do more up in here later, but what I want to do is get this glued down so that I can move the piece around without them falling all over the place. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll use matte medium, and I'm going to keep my pieces out and handy. I've got some other pieces that I might want to put somewhere, again, you know, after the fact or later. We'll just have to play with that. And then, of course, I've got this spot. One of the things that I wanted to do was to see if one of these melange pebbles fit in there nicely. I mean, that doesn't sit in there, so wonder what the size just directly below that is. Like, there's a huge one. Now that looks the same size. I might be able to drop one of these in. Oops. And it's funny, every time, you know, I've used several of these, and you can't tell because every time I put them back, there's different air spaces in there. So that might drop in there. Oh, that's kind of cool. So with a color behind it, it would really, you know, it'd kind of look like a gemstone in there. And then, of course, at some point, I'll do something with where the screw marks would be. Again, at the end, after the fact, and of course, I'm not going to be able to get that out of there until I tip this upside down. And I'm not going to tip it upside down before I glue. So I'm just going to let it sit there. So yeah, the next thing I'm going to do is get my matte medium out and start playing with getting these glued down. When I'm gluing like this, I use usually older brushes, and I use matte super heavy gel. This would be the equivalent, and I have some here, I just haven't opened it yet. I think the heavy body gel. So I think these are pretty much the same. They both dry clear so that you can use them for dimension and getting, you know, lifting and creating shapes if you need to up from underneath. So I'm going to start on this side because I think it'll be easier. Then once I glue this, I will let it sit overnight. So this one is going to be the first one to go down. And then the trick for me, and this has sort of a concave back, and so I'm going to build up the glue in that concave so that it creates a little bed for this piece to sit on. And when I squish this down, it'll squish out a little bit. That's okay. I can either clean it up or use it as part of my texture. Let's see, I think that was going this way. I'm gonna drop that right in there. And it was sitting right in the flat space. There we go. So you can see I've got a little, let's get that turned correctly. I've got a little bit there. And a lot of times what I'll do is just use a wipey or another old brush just to clean it up. Again, it dries clear. You don't really have to worry about that. But it'll also still leave the texture on there. So if you don't want that extra texture, you just wipe it up. And I just keep doing this one piece at a time until the piece is completely glued down. Once I get all of these pieces glued down, I will put another coat of black gesso. I usually start with a base coat before I glue anything down, just to help. It actually helps me visualize what they're going to look like after I do all the coloring, but it also gives me an extra layer of gesso, which is not a bad thing. Just extra protection. Then once I've let this sit overnight to dry, I'll come back in and sort of wiggle the pieces around just to make sure that nothing is loose and and vulnerable to, you know, falling off later. Again, all this white you see will be clear, so I'm not worried about that. And then the next layer of gesso prepares the metal for me to add color. I'm not afraid to use a ton of glue. I don't think on a project like this it makes sense to be stingy with it. So I've pretty much got this side glued down. We of course have to wait for it to dry. Ooh, that got, yeah, I can go that further. No, go there, stop there. And hopefully I've got enough glue on everything. Part of the pieces over here have already started to dry, so you can see how some of that white is, this is still moving, but this isn't. So it kind of depends, you know, on what the piece is. And you can see how where it was white before with the glue is now starting to clear up. And so you can't see the white as much. And so this side will do the same thing. Now, as I'm sitting here looking at this, here's an area where I'm gonna want to be very careful. You can see how I can press on this. And so I just wanna be careful here to make sure that, actually I think what I'm gonna do is put some glue up underneath here. So it's tricky when you're working on a piece like this where there is not a flat edge on this violin, I don't think, anywhere. And so not only does it wobble, you know, when it's sitting down and you're working on it, but you also have things like the, you know, the flat surface of a piece of chipboard wants to pop up in certain places. It doesn't automatically just conform to the shape. This piece, which is one of the reasons I put it down early on, is I kind of had to be Houdini with my hands because this curves around and I wanted that to be nice and flat on there. I didn't want it sticking up anywhere. And so, yeah, so I had to hold it with both hands at the same time while it was gluing, and it was a little tricky. And used clips too, and it was, like I said, it was just a little tricky. So this is still drying. What I was saying before when I thought I was recording was that I'm okay with there being, like, to me, this is sort of a little hole here where something needs to live. It's like an invitation for something to be there. And that's where the pieces that I have set aside to potentially use later, those are the kinds of places where those will live. And to me, that just filled that back up and works with all the circle shapes, and it's just a nice closure. I also will I'll pull out rested pieces like washers, nails, screws, sort of household items. And then I will mix some of those in on top at the very, very end as well, just to add a little more interest, a little more color. And then it's just a fun thing, I think, to do, to add in uncommon pieces into the mix. It's kind of like the timepiece metal thingy here that looks like a stopwatch or a pocket watch. That's not totally garden. This little circle metal piece here, that's not a flower, but this has florals on top of it. This is not a floral, but that's okay because it mixes in and creates a little bit more interest, if that makes sense. So I'm not creating, I'm not doing something where I say that my theme or my idea here is that this is a garden, but there's uncommon pieces mixed into it, if that makes sense. For interest, for fun, and because I just like doing that. Keeps you on your toes. All right, that's got a little bit of globbies, but it is sticking now. So I'm just gonna come through here and try to get rid of some of this excess glue, and then we'll let it dry. And oops, yeah, there's a great big old piece right there. Glue, anyone? And that can just wipe right off. All right, there we go. I think this is ready for me to walk away. And so the next step will be, what I'll do is I'll let this sit overnight. And then I'll come back to it and just check all the pieces that I've got so far and make sure that none of them are loose, because the step after that is moisture. And so I want to make sure that everything is nicely glued down so that I don't loosen it up inadvertently when I start coloring it. And then so that it, you know, ultimately completely pops right off. And if you're talking about a piece that pops off that's up underneath stuff, that's a little harder to deal with, and I just rather not have to deal with it. Although sometimes you do, and that's okay too. You can see on this side, this is the first side I started gluing. Most of the white is gone now. And there we have it. Lots more to come. There's more layers. So this is just the beginning. This is just the base layer. Yeah, the fun part's coming up. Thanks for joining me today. Watch for more videos on this piece and more as I work on it and create color and then extra stuff on top and all of that fun stuff. And the idea is that it is just a really cool decorated montage of in the garden with the violin. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll be back. Bye.